When I was taking an econ class in a community college, my econ teacher, there was a picture of some dour looking guy in a book or something he was showing us, or in our textbook, and he made a joke, looks like he lost his religion, you know, off of that tune, Losing My Religion. And you know, I thought right then, well, it's a good thing that could never happen to me. I'm not a really religious person. The religion I have is solid. Originally I was raised Catholic. My mom had studied to be a nun. Her sister did become a nun. She had dropped out of becoming a nun, you know, and she became a nurse. So I was raised Catholic. I went to catechism, but I never committed to the religion fully. I did my first communion, but I dropped out at confirmation, which is really what catechism ultimately sets you up for. So I never got confirmed as a Catholic. I didn't fully buy all the premises, and even more so with a lot of modern Christianity, especially the evangelical type stuff. It just doesn't really make sense to me that you have to subscribe, and subscribing to these ideas is enough. But anyway, let's not get into that. So I've always had sort of a jaded idea towards religion. I've always been interested in religion, but I never really fully bought into anything until I got into college and got into a four-year institute. And on a bulletin board I saw an ad that grabbed my eye about learning how to soul travel. And I'd always been interested in out-of-body type stuff, and how to prove to yourself, you know, if any of this stuff is true or if it's all BS. Maybe even find out if it's natural life or not. And I have another video where I discuss those questions, whether if you got out of your body, does it prove natural life or not. So I want to address that here. I encourage you to look at that video though. I did like this religion in that it focused on proving to yourself through soul travel or out-of-body projection certain things. And the text, the books were very intense. The tapes from the original leader were very depth, very inspiring, or very informative actually. So I was pretty well hooked into that for a while. And of course I soon learned that the original leader had passed pretty much before I even got into it. Definitely before I got into it. The original leader had passed, the second leader, and so I got some of the second leader's tapes and stuff. They weren't quite as intense, you know, intellectually as the first guy, but they were still good. He still had a lot to say. And I did feel like I made spiritual contact with him in meditation a few times. At some point, though, a third person took over. I didn't know how that happened at the time, but I accepted him. I was never able to really contact him spiritually that I can, you know, that's all hearsay anyway. But I never felt that connection. And his talks were lighter yet. They were mostly just storytelling. A lot of good stories and stuff, but they weren't really the meat and potatoes of how to and you know, the stuff you really need to know about psychic protection and all that kind of stuff was pretty much very weak in his talks. And it wasn't a whole lot of new material. He put out a lot of books, but they turned out to be all just transcripts of his talks, which I'd already had on tape anyway. So I was pretty disappointed with most of his stuff, and it kind of got weak on the path at that point. But I still basically held to the tenets of it. It had the best cosmology, you know, and I still pretty much go by that cosmology. It's basically all borrowed from Eastern anyway. So I did a little research on the internet and was kind of alarmed at what I found. First, I found that the transition between the second and third master had been very tumultuous. He originally was grooming the third guy to you know, help him out and eventually take his shoes, but it kind of got rushed. He took over right away. He got some of the people in the board, you know, the corporate side of the matter, to basically do a hostile takeover. A lot of false things were alleged. Maybe some were true, but a lot of them definitely were false against the second leader. And so the third guy got in there. The other thing goes back to the first leader. He, it turns out, had plagiarized his mind-blowing, the depth of his mind-blowing, intensely deep work. Well, a lot of it wasn't his. He plagiarized a whole big chunk of what he had written. He wrote a couple books at first that were real landmarks, and I guess he had the pressure to produce, and so he started plagiarizing more and more, and it's pretty well documented if you look it up. So that was the second factor of my research that really put it all on the second burner. At any rate, that was the end to my one real enthusiastic jab into religion, or enthusiastic to half-hearted. My one sincere look into religion. I've looked in many religions, but in terms of actually buying it, that was the one time I really bought one, at least to a major degree. So has it made me jaded for everything else? No, I've learned so much about religions and how they tick and how many different viewpoints there are that I realize that they're all basically, no one knows the full truth. No one ever will know the full truth. No one will ever be able to speak the truth they know in a perfectly concise way. We're human beings having a spiritual experience, or vice versa. Blah blah blah. But in the end, you got to figure it out for yourself. If you rely on someone else, then you're just humming along to the tune. You really need to figure these things out for yourself, not just give them lip service. Not just get your obligation to the God thing done every Sunday. Anyway, that's how I feel about it.